Okay, I'm gonna try and get you a shot of this. It's not real easy, just due to limited space. That's the, if I can get the flashlight focused here. Alright. You can see a little pin right there. We need to undo that pin, which undoes the actuator rods, and then there's two nuts on either side of this, and there really is no way to get the camera up in there, so you'll just have to take my word for it. That's not the bolt. There we go. You'll see the bolt right there. There's one right on the other side of it. You undo both of them. I believe they're 12 millimeter, and your clutch master cylinder will slide out. Now keep in mind, if you have not bled the purge the fluid out of the master cylinder and you don't have a line on it, it's going to spit fluid everywhere, and that can make a mess. So just keep that in mind. Murphy's Law, it comes into play. Okay, once you've got both bolts undone, this slides out relatively easy. As you can see, if there is any brake fluid, it will blow out of there. But all we need to do right now is to loosen that clamp, take it off of here. This is going to go bye-bye, and I'm actually putting the same brand in. There's not anything really wrong with this per se, but I'm just putting all new, and I'm going to go ahead and adjust the length of that rod like so. As you can see down in there, there is quite a bit of crud. Okay, we got a few pieces here. Just trying to adjust my screen. Got the banjo bolt ready. Everything's been clean and flushed. There's no more remnants of dot 3. With these new lines, you get 2 new copper washers. I wish they gave you a new one of these, because that one's a little, if you look at it there, I mean, it's alright, but doesn't look too happy. I'm going to go ahead and open up the slave cylinder. I'm going to do a couple things here. I'm going to start putting the new line on it. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the cap that they put in here with it and plug off the end of that hose, even though it doesn't look like it's going to stay. I don't really have a workbench, so work with what you got. And the way I put these washers in here, I put them this flat side. I don't know how well you can, if I hold these here, if you can see that's flat, that side's rounded. I put the flat side down towards the slave cylinder, like so. And the hose kind of rests in place like that. And then the bubbled side of this washer I put towards the hose here where the grooves are, because those grooves cut down into that and they make their seal. And there goes the seal I just put in the end of the hose here. So that plan really didn't work. I'm going to go ahead and thread those on in here, get this started, and then I'm going to torque this down to proper specs. I have this torqued down It's between 17 or 16 and 18 foot-pounds, so I calculated that out to inch-pounds because my foot-pounds wrench is a half-inch. So that little bolt right there is torqued down to approximately 250 inch-pounds, which is what I did the last time. I didn't have any problems. The brake line, or the hydraulic line over there, the metal one, is ready to go. It's flushed. Used a little bit of lighter fluid and cleaned it, and then blew it out. The cap itself, I disassembled the focus. There we go. I disassembled this entire thing and cleaned it, so there's no remnants of any of that on there. The first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to take our newly assembled and brand new clutch master cylinder. That's what it looks like. I adjusted the clevis right there to the same length the other one was. And then when the mechanic does the final adjustments on the new clutch, that'll probably need readjusted. But getting that in there can be fun, so hopefully you're watching this. It kind of goes in at an angle, and I'm doing it with the camera. Come on. There we go. Now, one thing, you're going to want to make sure that this kind of lines up here. I may have this hose reversed, but there's nothing on this hose that says direction, you know, and that fits on there just fine. But one thing you're going to do before you tighten these bolts up is you're going to want to get that clevis in position with your clutch pedal, because you are going to have to slide this forward some to do so. I'm going to leave this loose for the time being so I can get the hydraulic line back in here and in place. And then once we get to that step, we're going to go bolt that slave cylinder on down there. It's going to go on this side. And before we get these bolts, you know, tightened up, I'm going to slip the actuator rod in there in place. Just because I foresee it being a real bitch to squeeze that in there, especially when everything's hooked up. And there's 2 bolts. It's going into aluminum. I don't want to strip it. That point, you want it to point towards the front of the vehicle. I'm thinking of the actual brake line itself. There we go. And once that's in, you can just take this clip, closest thing you can find, and smack it. Probably want to use a hammer. Not really. Okay. And that'll jump right down into place, just like so. Next thing to do, and this has been recommended to me by a few people, simply because of the heat problems I had with Dot 3. We're going to go ahead and pierce this bottle. And this is liquid gold, basically. It's not cheap. And it's purple in color. We're just going to add that. Okay. Everything's installed and bled. I didn't get much putting it back together as far as the final adjustments on everything and the bleeding. I have my Dot 5. It's in there. I must say that the where is it? Slave cylinder there a night and day difference between what came off and what went on there. So hopefully that's, the clutch isn't bad on this car, it's not slipping, but I was told that the pressure plate is getting weak on it, at least the springs, so it's only a matter of time. And I figured